Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. This video is going to cover many of the fundamental gameplay mechanic changes in the just released RimWorld 1.1 patch. If you would like to know what is in store in this patch, this video is for you. In this first section of this video, I'm going to be covering the user interface updates and changes to RimWorld 1.1, and the first one is very obvious. The user interface looks great on large monitors in high resolution. One of the first changes you're going to notice when booting up the user interface of 1.1 is the new faction icons. If you go to the Factions tab, as you can see, they are now indicated through icon rather than text. Another nice new user interface feature is when you select a pawn, as you'll be able to see the faction they belong to and very clearly what they're incapable of, what their traits are, and why they have these traits. For instance, this character has a backstory of nurse, which means they're incapable of violence. Another beautiful new feature included in 1.1 is the new Quests tab. It will show you how difficult the quest is, what the quest requirements are, and who's offering them, what faction's offering them, roughly the monetary value. You can even jump to the stash and see the possible threat. Click on any of the world quests like this and jump right back to the quest detail. There's also historical tabs and available tabs that will show you what you've completed or failed, what's available, and what is active. Another beautiful addition to RimWorld 1.1 is the inclusion of two new overlays. One is the terrain affordance, which will show you what terrain will slow you down. So mud and shallow water, for instance, being highlighted here. Or bridges, which have a walk speed of 100% being highlighted as well. And then the fertility overlay, which will show you the fertility of the soil around you. So for instance, the fertile soil is very clearly highlighted here. The stony soil also indicated. And then of course, infertile, like rough granite, showing as such. Another really simple, elegant, and wonderful addition to the game is the inclusion of icons based upon the construction. So for instance, if you select a art bench, you can see there's 3 different types of art benches available to me given my resources and the icons here indicating them. Another new UI feature is the inclusion of hyperlinks in info cards. So for instance, if we check the info card up here, I can click on new arrivals and that will bring up the faction information. Another neat little feature included in this update is improvements to the info card of surgeries. So if I go into the operations here and click view information, it will show you the death chance on fail. Another wonderful little UI improvement is the inclusion of an info card whenever you select a room. So here I'm selecting items that are installed inside the hospital, and down here we can very quickly view the quality of this hospital without having to go into any additional overlays. Another wonderful little feature included in RimWorld 1.1 is the success chance for arrests. When you go to arrest a fellow colonist, it will show you the percent chance to succeed. This is largely driven by social skill. Another feature I'm definitely going to like in RimWorld 1.1 is the inclusion of trade price improvement. So if we go take a look at trading with them, as you can see, Twiddle here has a 10% gain, whereas Daniels only has a 1.3. Now, if you do a lot of caravan trading, you're really going to appreciate this next feature. Once you visit a colony and trade with them, it will show you when the next restock will occur. The historical message tab has been reworked as well. Tooltip replaced with a pane on the right side here, which will display the messages, and you can also pin them to keep them if you'd like. Well, that about rounds out the major UI changes. In the next section, I'm going to go over the new items and creatures that you will interact with. First up is some new animals that you will find out on the Rim. We've got bison, donkey, duck, goat, goose, guinea pig, horse, and sheep. here they all are, wandering freely. Some of them more useful than others, but nonetheless happy to have them added. RimWorld 1.1 also includes a brand new set of armor called Recon Armor. It is the research prerequisite of Marine Armor. Here you can see Daniel's wearing it. Recon Armor is very similar to Marine Armor, but does not have the speed slowdown. It is about 30% cheaper, but still requires plasteel and advanced components. 1.1 also outfits you with some additional new weapons. The first one is the EMP launcher. It is unlocked in the microelectronics research. Here you can see it in action. It has a slightly longer range than EMP grenades and a little bit more accuracy, as grenades are notoriously inaccurate, keeping the shooter safer while defending against mechanoids. Speaking of protecting yourself, there's a brand new smoke launcher. This is unlocked in the gunsmithing tree. The smoke launcher is very much like the smoke pot belt, but you can trigger it without being shot at. Here, as you can see it in action. It has just about the same range as the EMP launcher and creates temporary smoke clouds just like the smoke pot belt. You may also find some enemies are going to be smoke grenadiers. The smoke launcher and the EMP launcher aren't the only new ways to protect yourself. We also have the additional barricades. So before I go into barricades, sandbags have been reworked. Sandbags used to be made out of steel, now they're made out of cloth or leather. They have the same protectiveness, but depending on material, benefit better from stronger materials. Additionally, you have barricades. Barricades offer the same amount of cover as a sandbag, but benefit from the variety of materials that you build them with. So here we go. A uranium barricade at 750, or steel at 300, cloth sandbag at 300, or pigskin sandbags at 390, to give you an example of the variety. Another new addition to RimWorld 1.1 is the wooden hands and wooden feet, in case you lose fingers or toes, but don't need to fully amputate the full limb. RimWorld's Ruins and Ancient Danger systems have been reworked in RimWorld 1.1 as well. Here is a procedurally generated ruin with broken walls, some granite steles, old furniture, and columns. And then if we pan over here to a Ancient Danger, as you can see, it has some marble urns around it, and it is not just the boring rectangles that we are so familiar with. Very nice. Now, if you were unlucky enough to open an Ancient Danger with some mechanoids in it, you might notice a new mechanoid type called the pikemen. Pikemen are equipped with something called a needle gun. It is a long-range weapon. It doesn't do quite as much damage as the lance from a lancer, but it is pretty devastating nonetheless. Pikemen, unlike their centipede counterparts, are actually relatively weak. They have low armor, and they're pretty easy to bash to death if you have a shield belt to close the distance. That rounds the list for the additional weapons, armor, creatures, and enemies. Next up will be changes to gameplay mechanics. To start the changes of gameplay mechanics, you've got 3 new traits introduced in 1.1. The Tortured Artist, which they have a higher % chance to gain a creativity inspiration after a mental breakdown. You've also got the Asexual, which means that they will not enter a relationship, or Bisexual, which was actually part of RimWorld 1.0, but now is displayed as a trait, which means they could be attracted to both men or women. There also happens to be a new inspiration in RimWorld 1.1, which is called Inspired Taming. Much like the Inspired Recruit, it will dramatically increase your chance of successful taming on your next attempt. Another new change in RimWorld 1.0 is how the underground mineral scanner works. Instead of showing all the minerals on the map instantly, it needs to be worked by a pawn and continually and periodically finds new mineral patches. This can go on forever so that minerals are never exhausted. The Prisoner tab has been improved as well. It will now show you the difficulty, the chance, resistance remaining, the price of the slave, the relation that you gain to what faction on release, and the interval of prison break attempts. Anesthetics has been reworked as well. When you are anesthetized, you are sedated, and this will actually wear off over time rather than all at once. Speaking of anesthetics, you can also load an unconscious character into the pod, which allows you to send unconscious characters to travel from map to map. Another feature that I definitely thought was missing in RimWorld 1.0 was the inability to toggle off the automatic refill, and that has been added in RimWorld 1.1. So, for instance, if you don't want to add any additional fuel to a pod launcher, turn it off. If you don't want to add any additional wood to the passive cooler, turn it off. Likewise, with the campfire or the torch, really anything that would normally need to be refilled, like let's say a wood or chem fuel power generator, again, all you got to do, if you don't want it refilled, is just set it off. Speaking of reworked systems, we have a rework of the SCAR system. So unlike the previous versions of RimWorld where it would give you some sort of obfuscated number, it also tells you exactly how much pain is being generated from a scar. So for instance, Gooey's bite scar generates 19% pain. There's a lot of additional mood mechanics added around the kidnapping and purchase of prisoners. The pawn lost thought happens when a pawn is kidnapped or abandoned in their caravan. Pawns really like the pawn who rescued them. There's a mood boost for the character that gets purchased from a trader called Freed from Slavery, and a mood boost when a prisoner is released. Another interesting change to gameplay mechanics is the change that a stomach is no longer a vital organ. Finally, smelting, burning, and destruction has been rebuilt. Plate armor is now smeltable, except for wooden plate armor, which is burnable. Wooden clubs are burnable, and metal variants of the wooden club are now smeltable. Apparel from Hyperweave or Double Strand can no longer be burnt because of its natural fireproof properties, but you can destroy apparel the same as with weapons. And all Neolithic ranged weapons, the wooden ones, can be burnt as well. Another little feature I really enjoy is turrets now show both their maximum and minimum ranges, so that you can organize your defenses more accurately. Another wonderful change to the combat mechanics is the ability to manually target IEDs to have them explode. Another significant change is the fact that bridges no longer support medium weight, which means that the only kind of walls that you can build on bridge tiles will be wooden ones, because the steel or stone variants are just too heavy. In RimWorld 1.0, the art speed, tailoring speed, and smelting speed was classified as unskilled labor speed, but that has been renamed to general labor speed, which you can find in the stats of the characters. Another neat little feature I found, not documented in the changelog, just like the pikeman, is the additional death acidifier. Now, so go into the details of the death acidifier, as you can see. Upon the user's death or capture, it releases powerful chemicals that dissolve the gear in contact with the user's body, destroying it, so that others cannot use it. Now, in order to keep this video short and sweet, I'm not going to go over every little change in the patch notes. If you're interested, you could read them. If you read them, you'll find little details like Brawlers can no longer have a shooting passion, or colonists attending a party gain recreation value. There are a lot of little fine-tuning changes up in there, and of course the patch notes are in the description if that interests you. Well, that about caps out the video that I've got for you guys. There's actually a lot more in the patch notes. I just wanted to highlight some of the more significant things that I thought that you all should be aware of. But if there are things that you would like to add, just mention them in the comments below, and maybe people that are seeking to learn a little bit more about the patch notes can find them. Additionally, in the description of the video, I will provide the full patch note link to the Ludion forums, but just note that not literally every item, like for instance the Death Acidifier or the Pikeman, are included in those patch notes. Maybe as a surprise from Tynan. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll catch you all later. Adios!